The world is chaos. It always has been, and it always will be. You can complain, you can scream into the void, you can look for someone to blame, but none of that will change reality. The only thing you can change is yourself. We live trapped in a constant storm of thoughts, worries, and expectations that won't leave us alone. We want to control everything, but life spits in our face, reminding us how insignificant we are. And that's where Stoicism comes in. A philosophy that doesn't sugarcoat reality, doesn't give you false hopes, but teaches you to face life with an unbreakable mind. It's not about ignoring pain or being an emotionless robot. It's about learning to control the only thing that's really in our hands: our perception, our attitude, and our decisions. Because when you master your mind, when you're able to look adversity in the eye without blinking, then you are truly free. In this video, we're going to explore 9 Stoic strategies that will help you calm your mind and find balance amidst the chaos. These aren't just self-help tips, they're tools that great philosophers used in times when life was much harder than you or I could ever imagine. If they worked for them, they can work for you. But hear me out, this is not a game. If you really want to change, if you really want mental strength, you'll have to be willing to challenge everything you think you know about life. Don't expect comfort, expect truth. Let's get started. 1. Master the compass of your life. Most people are adrift. They live without direction, without purpose, letting themselves be swept away by the current of other people's expectations. One day they want one thing, the next day they want another. Their emotions dictate their actions, and they end up trapped in a cycle of dissatisfaction and emptiness. They have no control, they have no compass. But you can't afford that luxury. If you don't control your course, someone else will do it for you. Society, other people's opinions, passing trends, all will want to decide for you. And do you know what happens when you give your life to others? You end up living the life of a stranger, a blurry reflection of what you once wanted to be. Marcus Aurelius had it clear: don't let your mind become the property of others. And yet most people do. Their thoughts, their fears, their decisions, everything is influenced by external forces. They live like leaves in the wind, moving uncontrollably in the direction the current blows. But you are not a leaf. You are the navigator, and every navigator needs a compass. The first question you should ask yourself is, what the hell do you want in life? Not what your parents want, not what society imposes on you, not what makes you look good on social media. What you really want. If you don't know, you already have a problem. Because a person without direction is like a ship without a rudder. It moves, but it doesn't get anywhere. Ask yourself this question every day until the answer is as clear as water. What is my purpose? What life do I want to build? What values define my path? And once you have it clear, make it your damn religion. No matter what happens, no matter the distractions, no matter if others call you crazy, your compass must always point in the same direction. The Stoics understood that without purpose, the mind weakens. When you don't know which path to take, any obstacle will seem like a wall. But when you have a clear destination, each challenge is just another step on your path. Discipline is born from purpose. He who has a why can endure any how. And if your compass is firm, no blow from life will be able to divert you. But listen to me well, this path will not be easy. Don't expect support. Don't expect external motivation. Don't expect validation. It's you against the world. And that is the real power. Because when you decide who you are and where you're going, nobody can stop you. So now tell me, are you going to continue adrift, or are you going to take the damn control of your life? Choose, and don't look back. 2. Embrace reality. Don't fight against it. Look around you. Life isn't fair. It never has been, and it never will be. Maybe you grew up believing that if you did everything right, things would turn out in your favor. That effort is always rewarded. That fate has a perfect plan for you. But one day, you realize that it's not like that. You see hardworking people barely surviving, while others, without lifting a finger, have more than you could ever imagine. You see good people suffer and miserable people triumph. And what do? You get angry. You wonder why the world is like this, as if your indignation would change it. But reality owes no one any explanations. You can curse your bad luck. You can shout at the sky, waiting for an answer. But I'll tell you something, it won't come. The universe isn't going to stop and fix things because you don't like them. Life goes on, indifferent to your complaints. And the sooner you accept it, the sooner you will stop suffering. Epictetus understood it better than anyone. Don't expect events to happen as you want them to, but want the events as they happen, and you will have peace. This doesn't mean that you should become a conformist, but that you should learn to play with the cards you are dealt instead of crying over the ones you don't have. Think about it. When you get angry because something didn't go as you wanted, what are you achieving? Nothing. You only wear yourself out. You only fill your mind with noise. It's like fighting against a storm, hoping that the rain will stop because of your tantrum. It doesn't work like that. Reality is immovable. It's a wall. You can crash against it until you break your bones, or you can find a way to go around it. But one thing is clear, the wall won't move for you. Accepting reality doesn't mean giving up. It means to stop wasting energy on what you can't change and focus on what you can control. You lost money. Someone betrayed you. You failed at something important. Okay, and now what? Do you keep lamenting, or do you get up and keep moving forward? The Stoics understood that true freedom is not in controlling the external, but in controlling how you respond to it. Because reality doesn't adapt to you. You are the one who must adapt to reality. So listen to me well. Life isn't going to give you guarantees. It's not going to promise you that things will be as you expect. But if you learn to embrace reality instead of fighting against it, you will become stronger than any storm. And while the rest continue to waste time complaining, you will already be several steps ahead, moving forward without looking back. 3. Make gratitude your daily anchor. If I told you there is a tool capable of strengthening your mind, reducing stress, and making you more resilient to life's blows, would you use it? It sounds simple, but most people ignore it. Gratitude. Not the cheap version you find in self-help phrases, not the typical "be positive and everything will be fine." No, I'm talking about real, raw, and conscious gratitude, the kind that the Stoics practiced when they knew that any day could be their last. Imagine waking up one day and everything you have is gone. There's no bed, no roof, no food, no one by your side, only emptiness. How would you feel? Now return to reality and realize that you still have it. The question is not how much more you can get, but how much you already have and do not value. The problem is that we live in an illusion where everything seems guaranteed. You assume you will wake up tomorrow, that person will still be there, that your body will continue to function as always. But life does not operate on your terms. Look at it like a glass of water. Someone dying of thirst in the desert would see it as a miracle. But you, who have access to water every day barely pay attention to it. The value of things is not in themselves, but in how aware we are of their presence. And that's where the key lies. Most people do not suffer from what they lack, but from what they do not appreciate. If you want to calm your mind, break the cycle. Make gratitude a habit, but not superficially. It's not about writing 3 nice things in a journal, and that's it. It's about stopping, looking at what you have, and truly understanding that you might not have it. It's about opening your eyes and realizing that although life is not perfect, you have more than you think. Every day, take a moment to think, what do I have now that I could lose tomorrow? Maybe it's your ability to move, to see, to hear. Maybe it's the person by your side, the roof over your head, the opportunity to fight for something better. No matter what it is, truly feel it. And if you want to give even more power to this practice, do what the Stoics called negative visualization. Imagine for a moment that you have lost everything. If you woke up tomorrow and nothing you have today was there, how would you feel? Now return to reality and understand that you still have it. Gratitude is not a pretty concept. It's a weapon against anxiety, frustration, and dissatisfaction. It's a reminder that even though chaos surrounds you, you still have more than you think. And when you internalize it, something changes in you. You no longer live chasing external things to feel complete. You start to see the abundance in what you already have, because mental peace does not come from having more. It comes from realizing that you never lacked anything. 4. Face the fear before it arrives. Fear is the silent killer of mental peace. It is not seen, it is not touched, but it is there, always lurking, whispering doubts to you, paralyzing you before anything even happens. It is not reality that torments us, but the anticipation of what we believe could happen. And there's the trap. Most of our fears never come true. We spend days, weeks, even years worrying about scenarios that never occur, mortgaging our tranquility for ghosts that only exist in our heads. The Stoics had a simple but brutal solution for this. Face the fear before it arrives. Instead of running away from uncertainty, they looked it straight in the eye and disarmed it before it could consume them. They asked themselves, what is the worst that could happen? And they not only thought about it, they visualized it with starkness, with absolute realism, without adornments or excuses. Lose your job, run out of money, fail in front of others. All of this, in theory, sounds terrifying. But when you force yourself to detail the scenario, when you break down its consequences without drama, you realize something surprising. Most fears are much smaller than they seemed in your head. Imagine losing everything, not a vague thought, but a clear image, without money, without support, without easy ways out. What would you do? At first, the answer is panic. But if you keep exploring, you start to see alternatives. You would find a way to get ahead, because there always is one. You would eat less, look for a place to sleep, work on whatever was necessary to rebuild yourself. Difficult? Yes. Impossible? No. And here's the key point. When you visualize the worst and realize that you could endure it, fear loses power. Seneca practiced this physically. From time to time, he lived as if he had already lost everything. He dressed in the simplest clothes, ate the bare minimum, slept on the floor. Not because he liked to suffer, but because this way he proved that he could survive with little. And when you know you can survive with little, you stop fearing losing everything. Now, apply this to your life. Think about what you fear the most: rejection, failure, loss. Instead of avoiding these thoughts, immerse yourself in them. Break down each fear until you reach its core and ask yourself, if this happened, would it really be the end? You will see that, in most cases, the answer is no. Life would go on, and you would find a way to adapt, because fear is not the problem. The problem is not facing it. The more you ignore it, the more it grows in the shadow, the more it controls you. But when you expose it to the light, when you analyze it ruthlessly, it shrinks until it becomes irrelevant. It's not about becoming insensitive or denying danger, but understanding that fear only has power if you give it to it. And when you learn to face it head-on, you discover that it was never as big as you thought. The next time fear attacks you, don't run away. Catch it. Break it down. Dismantle it piece by piece until there is nothing left of it. Because at the end of the day, the worst prison is the one you build in your mind. And if you learn to free yourself from it, nothing can stop you. 5. Anchor your mind in the here and now. Your mind is like a runaway horse. It runs uncontrolled between the past and the future, reliving mistakes, worrying about what's to come, caught in a storm of thoughts that never stops. And the worst of it all is that very few times it is in the only place where you really have power, the present. You spend your days dragging guilt from the past, thinking about what you could have done better, about what you should have said, about the paths you didn't take, or worse yet, you jump ahead to a future that does not yet exist, imagining all possible failures, all the things that could go wrong. And meanwhile, life keeps going on, and you are not there to live it. But tell me, what good is it to worry about what has already happened? Can you change it? No. And what's coming? What terrifies you about the future? Is it under your control at this moment? Neither. The only real thing is this moment. Everything else is a trap of the mind, a jail without bars, but just as suffocating. Think about this. How many times have you felt anxiety about things that never happened? How many times have you stayed awake at night, worried about problems that, in the end, solved themselves or didn't even exist? Your mind creates more suffering than reality could ever cause you. Most of our worries are just shadows, illusions that never materialize, and yet we feed them as if they were real. Living in the present does not mean forgetting the past or not planning the future. It means that you don't waste your energy on what you can't change. If something has already happened, what good is it to regret? Learn, adjust, and move on. If something has not yet happened, what good is it to worry? Focus on what you can do today. Everything else is noise. Imagine you're crossing a bridge. The bridge represents the present. Behind you, the path you left behind. Ahead, a path covered in fog. If you spend too much time looking back, you'll stumble. If you run too fast forward without seeing where you're stepping, you'll fall. But if you focus on each step you take, firm and conscious, you'll get to the other side without a problem. That's the power of living in the now. So, when your mind starts to wander, when thoughts about the past or the future try to trap you, do this. Stop. Breathe. Feel the ground under your feet. Listen to the sounds around you. Focus on what's in front of you. Because if you don't learn to control your attention, you'll live a borrowed life, trapped in times that don't exist. The present is all you have. It's where life happens, where you make decisions, where you can change things. If you manage to anchor your mind here, nothing will be able to shake you, neither the mistakes of yesterday nor the fears of tomorrow. Just you, here and now, with absolute control of your life. Because in the end, true peace of mind is not found in another place, nor in another time. It's here, in this precise moment. And only those who learn to live in it can say they are truly alive. 6. Free yourself from the noise and unnecessary weight. Your mind is like a room. If it's cluttered, filled with useless things, with no space to move around, you'll feel suffocated, overwhelmed, without clarity. The same happens with your life. You carry too much noise, too many unnecessary worries, too many things that really don't contribute anything. They just weigh you down. And the worst part is that many times you don't even realize it. Think about this. How many things in your life really matter? I'm not talking about what you've been told should matter to you, but what truly has value. Because if you examine honestly, you'll realize that a large part of your anguish comes from irrelevant things. Opinions of others, insignificant problems, constant distractions. All that noise occupies a huge space in your mind and doesn't leave you in peace. We live in an era where information never stops, where everyone shouts their opinion, where the problems of strangers on the internet seem to be more important than our own peace. But tell me, what do you gain from all that? Nothing. Only stress, anxiety, a mind overloaded with thoughts that aren't even yours. And if your mind is full of noise, you'll never find clarity. The Stoics were radical about this. They understood that you can't control the world, but you can choose where to focus your energy. And the truth is this: if something doesn't contribute to your growth, it's dead weight. If something only generates worry without purpose, it's an obstacle. And if something doesn't bring you closer to the life you want, it's pushing you away from it. It's that simple. So, do a mental inventory. Examine what you consume, what you listen to, what you let into your mind every day. Ask yourself, does this help me or just distract me? Does this strengthen me or drain me? If it's only occupying space without adding value, let it go. You don't need to keep up with every negative news. You don't need to know everyone's opinion on every topic. You don't need to argue about things that won't change your life at all. And it's not just about information. It's also about people, environments, habits. Surround yourself with what strengthens you. Eliminate what weakens you. You don't have to carry relationships that only wear you out. You don't have to stay in places where you don't grow. You don't have to keep doing things just because you've always done them. Eliminate without fear. Because if you keep holding on to what doesn't add up, you'll never have space for what really matters. Silence is power. When you eliminate the noise, when you let go of the unnecessary, you find something that most never experience: clarity. And with clarity, everything changes. You make better decisions. You live with more intention. You stop reacting by inertia and start acting with purpose. You become the master of your mind instead of being its prisoner. So now tell me, what can you let go of today? What distraction? What useless worry? What unnecessary burden can you leave behind to make room for something better? Because tranquility doesn't come from having more, but from learning to live with less. And when you master that, the peace you so seek stops being an illusion and becomes your natural state. 7. Don't be a slave to your emotions. If there's something that can destroy you faster than any external enemy, it's your own uncontrolled mind. Poorly managed emotions are poison. If you let them rule you, you become a prisoner of impulses, reacting without thinking, letting anger, fear, or sadness dictate your fate. And here's the hard truth: no one who is a slave to their emotions is truly free. How many times have you said or done something you later regretted because you were too upset, too anxious, or too euphoric? That's the problem. When you let yourself be carried away by the emotion of the moment, you lose clarity. You don't think, you just react. And often, those reactions end up costing you more than the problem was worth in the first place. It's not about repressing what you feel. It's about controlling it. It's about understanding that the emotion itself is not the problem, but what you do with it. Anger is not bad if you channel it well. Fear is not bad if you use it to prepare. Sadness is not bad if you turn it into learning. The problem is when you let them dominate you, when you become their puppet and make impulsive decisions that later ruin you. Imagine a warrior in the heat of battle. If he lets himself be carried away by anger, he attacks without thinking and ends up dead. If he lets himself be carried away by fear, he freezes and is pierced. But if he uses anger as fuel, if he uses fear as a warning, then he keeps a cool head and survives. That's real control. Not eliminating emotions, but taming them, turning them into tools instead of chains. So the next time a strong emotion hits you, don't react immediately. Stop. Analyze. Ask yourself, is this feeling real, or is it just an exaggerated response from my mind? Is it worth spending my energy on this? How will I feel about this decision in a week, in a month, in a year? Because what seems important in the heat of the moment almost always becomes irrelevant over time. Don't let a momentary emotion destroy what you've built. Don't let a moment of anger ruin relationships, an anxiety attack paralyze your plans, a passing sadness make you believe that everything is lost. Keep a firm mind. Master your emotions, or they will master you. True strength is not in hitting harder, but in having the discipline not to hit when it's not necessary. Because in the end, victory in life is not for the one who reacts the most, but for the one who knows when to act and when to let go. And if you achieve that, if you manage to be the master of your emotions instead of their slave, then you become unshakable. And when nothing can shake you, nothing can stop you. 8. Let go of attachment. Find true freedom. Many believe that happiness lies in what they own, in what they have achieved, in the people they have close by. And that's their mistake. Not because those things don't matter, but because they have built their identity around them. They cling to the external as if it were part of them, and when they lose it, they crumble. But tell me something. What in this life is really yours? Your money? A bad deal, and it disappears. Your status? A simple scandal, and it vanishes. Your relationships? They're here today, maybe not tomorrow. Nothing really belongs to you. And the sooner you understand this, the sooner you will stop living in fear. Because that's the trap of attachment. It makes you weak. It makes you dependent on things you can't control. It fills you with anxiety about losing what you think you need. But the truth is, you don't need anything more than yourself. Think about how many times you've suffered more from losing something than from the fact itself. It wasn't the object, the person, or the opportunity that hurt. It was your attachment to it. We don't want to let go because we believe that without it, we won't be the same. But if something external defines who you are, you were never free to begin with. The Stoics lived with this principle in mind. They practiced what they called amor fati, love of fate as it is, without clinging to anything. If something good comes, enjoy it. If it goes, let it go. Not because you don't care, but because you understand that it never belonged to you. And when you think like this, you free yourself. Imagine for a moment that you lose everything, not as a depressive thought, but as a mental experiment. Your money, your reputation, your stability. Everything disappears. Would you still be you? If the answer is no, then you were never really you. You were just a sum of external things. But if you can see yourself without anything and still feel that you are strong, then there is true freedom. I'm not saying Don't enjoy what you have. Take advantage, care, value. But understand that everything is temporary. And when something goes, let it go without resistance. Because if you live in fear of losing, you never enjoy what you have. If you cling to something external, that something controls you. And what controls you owns you. So stop living with invisible chains. Don't put your happiness in what you can lose. Because the only one you really are, the only one no one can take away from you, is yourself. And when you understand that, when you let go of attachment and accept the impermanence of everything, nothing can bend you. Because you are no longer a slave to the external. You are free. 9. Find power in solitude. Solitude is seen as a shadow to be avoided. It is feared, rejected, filled with noise so as not to have to face it. But solitude is not the problem. The problem is that you never learned to be with yourself. And if you can't stand your own company, then you have a bigger problem than you think. From the time you are a child, you are taught that validation comes from outside, that you need the approval of others, that being alone is a failure, that if you do not belong to a group, there is something wrong with you. But tell me something, how many times have you betrayed what you really wanted just to fit in? How many times have you endured meaningless conversations, empty company, and situations you didn't want just to avoid silence? How many times have you surrounded yourself with people who brought you nothing just to distract yourself from yourself? Solitude is not a punishment. It is a test of how strong you are without distractions, without applause, without the false security of someone else holding up your self-esteem. It is in solitude that you discover who you really are, without masks, without influences, without the need to impress anyone. And if you are unable to be alone, it means that you have not yet built a strong enough identity. The Stoics did not run from solitude, they sought it. They knew that in silence there was clarity. When you disconnect from external noise, when you face your thoughts alone, you realize what really matters and what is just distraction. But few have the courage to do it. Most fill their days with noise, entertainment, and superficial company to avoid an encounter with themselves. But tell me, if the first thing you do when you're alone is look for distractions, if you can't spend a moment without filling the void with external noise, do you really have control of your own mind? I'm not saying you should live in isolation. Human connections are important, but they should not be a crutch. You don't need the presence of someone else to feel complete. The difference between someone strong and someone weak is that the weak seek company to avoid facing their emptiness, while the strong choose who to be with because they already feel complete alone. If you learn to find peace in solitude, no one will be able to manipulate you. No one will be able to take away your center. No one will be able to make you feel that you need their approval to exist. True independence is not in money nor in success, but in not needing anything external to feel good about yourself. So ask yourself this question: are you capable of being alone, in silence, without distractions, without feeling discomfort? If the answer is no, then there is the problem you need to solve. Because the day that solitude stops scaring you, you will become invincible.
Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you watched the whole thing, comment "I am Stoic" as our secret signal to know that you're a true student of Stoicism. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, and remember, keep cultivating your Stoic mind.